welcome to fresponse.com. Today we're going to talk about fresponse Universal, the client-server version of the popular fresponse Enterprise Classic suite of fresponse products. Universal relies on a central server installed on either Linux or Windows to maintain and to control traffic transmissions between examiners and subjects. What you're seeing today on the screen is our management console. This is what would run on your Windows machine, allowing you to talk to that server and to in turn communicate with the subjects connected to it. You can see in the display I have an fresponse Universal server configured here, as well as data sources such as agentless connections, cloud servers, and cloud files. I'll go through each of them today. The fresponse Universal server is a simple double click to log into, having already configured it and added it to our console. In addition, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to get a subject communicating with that Universal server. There's a whole bunch of different ways to do that. We could export an MSI, run a graphical executable, or use our own console to push the software to the remote machine. We'll do that today by first configuring some Windows credentials on our test network, which we've got set up here. We've got a username, a domain, and a password already inputted. In addition, if we were looking to deploy to a non-Windows system, we could put in a user account and assume root privileges using su or sudo or a root account proper. Deployment to non-Windows systems is done with SSH and SFTP. Deployment to Windows systems is done with SMB or file and network printer sharing services. Remember, this deployment mechanism is part of the product. You may use it, or you can elect to use some other tool to export the MSI. Here we're going to put in the remote machine, the host name rather, of a remote machine we'd like to get the fresponse software installed on, and press install and start. Our management console is talking to the back end, which is pushing the fresponse executable from our local machine to that remote Windows machine. You can see it took me longer to say that than it took for it to actually happen. Once the remote machine's got the software and it's up and running, you'll see it in our display here as one of the number of items on that remote Universal server. We have two options: image or attach a subject target. Attaching a subject target is just like it sounds. It lets us scroll down and select a device. In this case, we'll pick physical drive 0 and attach it to our machine as a fully read-only physical disk. Under the activity panel, you'll see that new disk attach operation. It's assigned disk 0 to physical drive 1 on our local machine, and Windows will race out and assign volume letters to any NTFS or FAT-based volumes that it locates on that disk. Here you can see we have an F drive and then an E drive. At this point, any forensic tool you'd like to use in tandem with fresponse can be pointed at physical drive 1, and you can perform analysis, image operations, etc. fresponse does include its own imager. It will create images in what's called expert witness format, or E01. Simply select the device and fill out the information, which will save the image to a destination of your choosing on your local machine. In addition to giving you access to remote Windows, Linux, and in certain instances Apple systems, there's also the ability to perform collections of agentless content. These would be things like SMB and SFTP shares, as well as cloud servers and cloud files. We'll start by taking a look at an SFTP share, for instance, a remote Apple machine, perhaps because Apple's system integrity protection prevents remote disk imaging. We'll go ahead and select a directory and collect its contents to our local machine. What this is effectively going to do is it's going to spin up a new worker process. That worker process will communicate with the remote machine over SSH, SFTP, and it will begin downloading content to a directory on our machine called collection. What we'll end up with is a file and folder content with dates and times commensurate with or matching the dates and times on the remote machine, as well as a CSV, a comma-separated value file containing all of the content we were able to collect. Since all of these processes work disjoint or unconnected to one another, we're going to turn around and focus our energy on cloud servers while that operation is running. Cloud servers is a new feature we have added to fresponse that gives you the ability to collect data from remote Amazon EC2 or Azure Compute servers. The simple process is that it allows you to select a volume and a collection path, which will then allow a worker process to snapshot that remote volume, whether the machine is running or the remote server is running or not, and then download that image file to your local system and then delete the snapshot at the provider when finished. So this allows us to make full disk images of remote volumes, either they be hosted on Amazon EC2 or Azure Compute servers, without the need to turn off the machine or to set up complex network connectivity to it. Lastly, we do include the ability to collect data from remote cloud files. These are cloud storage environments, things like Amazon Simple Storage Service or S3, Azure Blob Storage, Google Drive, G Suite, etc. We've got an Amazon account configured that we're going to double click on, select a bucket, and collect its entire contents. Just like before, we could have browsed to a specific directory or filtered by name, but we're going to select the entire contents of this Amazon S3 bucket and save it in that same collection folder on our local machine. This is going to do exactly like it sounds. It's going to pull down individual file and folder content, resetting it commensurate with the dates and times that the cloud provider offers. Amazon only offers the last modified time, so accessed and created times on the NTFS destination folder will be zeroed out. Depending on the e-discovery or forensic tool you elect to use to process this data after it's collected, those dates and times will either show as somewhere in the early 1600s or 0. So effectively, what have we got? We've got the ability to collect data from remote systems, provided they can access and reach our universal server. We can interact with them as a full physical device as well as create images. And when we interact with them as a full physical device, we can use any forensic e-discovery or data processing tool we'd like. In addition, we have the ability to collect data from cloud files, i.e. cloud storage environments, things like Amazon and Office 365, OneDrive, G Suite, formerly G Suite, Google Workspaces. We have the ability to collect data from cloud servers, in this instance things like Azure Compute and Amazon's EC2 cloud, as well as the ability to collect data from agentless connections, so SFTP and SMB shares. Once a collection is complete, it's a simple right-click to remove it from the display. The actual data that was downloaded will remain in the destination folder, along with any CSV or file content. We'll go ahead and detach the drive and return our remote machine to the way it was before we started with a simple right-click and stop and remove the subject software. That'll trigger the remote machine to remove the software, whether we installed it using our console, an MSI, or through some other third-party process. Hopefully that gives you a good understanding, or at least an overview, of F-Response Universal. We're available on the web at www.f-response.com, or send us an email at sales@f-response.com, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks for taking the time to check out F-Response Universal today, and have a great day.